Welcome to the PrepZone show. I'm Johnathan Bentley, joined with my co-host Zach McCullar, and we want to thank Bevill State for presenting the show this week and this season. Let's jump right in, Zach. We had a lot of terrible games in high school this week.
This was just another clunker of a week of high school football, to be honest. A lot of our county teams actually played well, but the scores were all pretty ugly, and we had 3 games that were 2 possession, and then the rest were decided by about 50 points apiece. So.
Now, you went to one of these terrible games.
I did. I mean, it wasn't that terrible. It was entertaining in the second half. Winston County, Carbon Hill. Carbon Hill, they fought in the second half. Halftime is 33-0 Winston County, and it looks like it's just going to be an utter demolition. But credit to Carbon Hill, they fought and were only outscored by a touchdown in the second half.
I remember back in the day, Brody Croyle, after they lost, said, well, we won the second half.
Oh.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
They don't say that anymore. No, they don't say that anymore. But let's jump into some of these games. I guess the best one was Oakman Midfield.
Yeah, Midfield was able to fight and keep it close for a while. Really low scoring as Oakman wins 21-12. Just like you said, that's the best game of the week we had. 9 points.
They were down 12-0, came back, and he said Midfield was a lot better. You never can tell Midfield. 2 years ago they were good. Last year they weren't so good.
Right, and they're just kind of up and down.
All right, so we had Haleyville beating Cordova 36-21. Cordova's still looking for that first round.
Cordova's 0-3, just really not how you want to see the season start if you're a Blue Devil. Haleyville obviously comes out there and gets a good win. Yeah.
And now they turned to Landon Smothers, the freshman quarterback. He had a good game. So maybe going forward, get some experience. Maybe they can win some of these games.
And I will say Haleyville could be
maybe they're good.
Yeah, they may be.
Yeah,
that's the region that we have Cordova, Corner, Curry, and Dora in.
They could be good again.
Yeah, definitely.
They made the playoffs last season.
A threat to some of our region teams.
And I hate that Lynn lost. They had to go to Montgomery again, play that Alabama Christian, lose by 10 points, 30-20.
Alabama Christian's a really good team. The fact that Lynn pulls it to 10 points is, testament to how Mark Hastings has that program, doing really well. So, granted, it's a loss, and, you never like to see a loss for one of our area teams, but Lynn did fight.
Yeah, I thought that was a good showing. Last year they got beat.
Yeah, it was like 64,
38 or something.
Yeah, 64-28, something like that.
Dora 61, Curry 14. That's kind of what we expected, right?
Yeah, and Dora is just got a lot more talent than Curry, and Dora was able to run all over them. You hate to see that between two of our county teams where it's just extremely one-sided, but that's the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah, that was a bad game. The game you went to, Winston County 62, Carbon Hill 28.
Yeah, great showing for Winston County by Rakeem Moore. How many yards did he have? Like 380-something, was it?
Yeah, they had 2 guys with over 350 yards.
That's ridiculous. Winston County was able to put up some ridiculous-looking stats in that game.
That was video game stats for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of, Corner 53, Hamilton 6, they had 3 guys go out. It was very similar, actually.
Yeah, Corner.
Winston County did.
Corner's off to a hot start. They're the only undefeated team left in the area.
Wow. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah. Ramsey 55, Jasper 6. We don't really need to say anything about that. That's your defending state champ.
That's true. Ramsey. Yeah, Ramsey is a really good football team.
Yeah, Jasper got a tough schedule. Meek 52, Waterloo 14. That's the game I went to start. Waterloo had, I think, 4 subs.
Ooh.
It's a very young team.
Yeah.
And they came a long way for a terrible 52-14 loss.
But it's a learning experience for Waterloo. And,
very young team.
Meek was able to get some tune-ups there. Of course, 52-14, a really big win for Meek. So definitely a good way to rebound off that loss.
Yes, a surprising loss to Hackleburg. Addison, very similar to that, 54-6 over Cherokee. Cherokee was 2-0. They're probably going to go 2-8 after this.
They were able to get a couple of easy games on the schedule early, and whatever thought they had of, maybe this is a turnaround season just vanished.
Not yet. And Pickens County, last game, 56, Sumiton Christian 0.
Yeah, Pickens County's a perennial power in 1A or 2A or wherever they bounce. They bounce up and down.
Yeah, they're 1A now.
Occasionally. They're 1A, that's
Lynn,
right.
Lynn will have to go through them to win that region.
That's going to be tough.
That'll be a big game.
They knocked Meek out last year.
That's right. Came back to beat them. All right, so let's go into this week's games. Anything jump out this week to you?
Well, there's a possibility for a few good games here. Winston County hosting Sulligent, Fairfield, Jasper.
Yep.
Haleyville, Dora might get interesting if Haleyville can play with the Bulldogs. Cordova corner region.
Cordova's
region game
needs it
rivalry. Oh yeah, Cordova
badly.
needs that win very badly.
And yeah, like you said, Sullivan, that's a big game for Winston County. That's a tough region.
It is.
So that every game like this is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Winston County kind of snuck in the 4th seed last year. They're going to need a game like this, or Lamar County to do it again.
I mean, do you see any upsets happening here?
Haleyville, I don't know what they are. I haven't seen them, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do against. They had 30, and they won at Cordova, which is a pretty good win. Now this is a next step up,
Right.
Dora. If they play like they've been playing, they should take care of business. The one game we do need to mention that Jasper is Thursday this week, and next week they're Thursday at Winona. Two huge games.
Oh yeah, because Fairfield has obviously struggled. They're 0-3. Mm-hmm. Jasper's 0-2, but definitely Jasper can get off the losing block and start winning again.
Yeah, they need this. They won this game last year, and it kind of started. They need a winning streak. If you look at their schedule, they've got like 4 or 5 games in a row they can win.
This is a 5-5 team where it's just lose, then a streak of wins before losing to close out the season.
Pleasant Grove.
And
Homewood. Now, Homewood might be down this year, but
that's true.
It is Homewood.
Yeah, Homewood's always a powerhouse.
So that'll be tough.
To end your season with Homewood at Homewood, not how you want to build momentum heading into the playoffs, but if you can win there, that's huge.
Absolutely. Because they start with Coleman and then with Homewood. Two teams you just happened to pick. You could have picked up anybody.
Right.
That's who you picked up.
You could have picked up Vina for all that.
Well, I don't know about they could have picked up somebody else.
Yep.
And they got Sidney Lanier, so that's a game they could win too.
I've said this before. Jasper needs to pick up Grissom. They're 7A, 4-6, 3-7 every year up in the Huntsville area.
Never do anything.
Right.
Never hear about their football team.
No, because it struggles and big set. It would be a win if Jasper could schedule Grissom.
Actually, any Huntsville city school.
Well, except Randolph.
About Huntsville.
Maybe. Well, Randolph.
Randolph was really, really good last year. Just ask Dora. Right. Boy, that was impressive. Yeah, pick up somebody big from Huntsville. You don't need to go to Birmingham. Pick up a Huntsville team. As I've always said, no Huntsville team has won state except Madison Academy.
Yeah, Madison.
Which is a private school.
Right.
So that's it, the whole county. All right, so I guess let's go through these games real fast and pick them. You taking Jasper to beat Fairfield?
I am. I've got Jasper with a home field advantage, able to beat Fairfield and get the first win of the season.
Yeah, me too. I think they'll take care of business there. What about Haleyville at Dora?
Yeah, Dora, obviously, they have got one loss in the season. Need to keep the momentum going. Of course, last year it was a really slow start. They won this game last year, but it was a slow start before Dora was able to start to roll. If they can win here and keep on winning, that would be an even bigger momentum heading into postseason play potentially at the end of the season.
Some big games coming up for them. Speaking of big game, Cordova at corner. Now, you picked Cordova last week. What do you think about this week?
I just have to see more out of Cordova before I'm going to pick them. Corner, our only undefeated team left in the area, like I said. 2-0. I have them going 3-0.
Yeah, me too. I just got, like you said, I want to see Cordova win one of these games before I pick them to win. Oakman at Tarrant. Tarrant's usually down.
Yeah, Tarrant's usually down.
On this one.
I'm going with Oakman too. Though then again, Tarrant's seen a little bit of momentum in recent years.
They have a win this
going
year.
Up. They do. They beat Sumiton Christian last year.
That's right. That was shocking because Sumiton Christian was playing pretty well at that point.
They were.
What about Addison at Hackleburg? Hackleburg pulled the upset of Meek already. This would really put them in the driver's seat if they won this game.
It would, yeah. It would put Hackleburg in that. Hackleburg could potentially win the region.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically right now a 3-team race probably.
Right. And
Meek's already down a game. Who do you have in that one?
I've got Hackleburg with the home field advantage up there. I mean, not that Addison's going to play poorly, but Hackleburg, they've shown that they can beat the good teams of Winston County, so I think they do it again.
Wow, that would probably put Addison and Meek for second place. I went Addison on that. I don't know why. I think Meek just had a really bad game. It was rainy. They had some kids sick. I know it rains for both teams.
True.
But sometimes one team's affected more.
Right.
Like Jasper against Coleman. All right, so Lynn at Sumiton Christian, do we need to talk about that?
No, we don't. Lynn is probably going to run all over them, but I hope it's a good game.
Yeah, I'd like to see Sumiton Christian be nice if they see them get a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, just, put a little bit of momentum, some slow steps towards momentum so that maybe Sumiton Christian can put together a few wins once the schedule gets a little easier.
The schedule to start with Hubbardsville, Pickens County, and Lynn, that's really, really tough. I skipped over Meek at Colbert Heights. It's a 3A school.
Yeah, Colbert Heights is 3A, but they're also 0-3. I've got Meek.
They gave them a game last year
Yes.
at Meek. But I don't think this Colbert Heights team is as good.
No, I've got the Tigers winning that.
Now, what about Sullivan at Winston County? Not you saw Winston County last week.
Now, that's going to be an interesting game, I really do believe. Winston County's 2-1. I've been there for both wins. Not going to be there this week, so I think Sullivan wins.
So, if you did go, they would win this game?
Probably not, just because Sullivan's really a good football team.
And yet again, Sullivan last year was mediocre.
Right.
And this year, the small schools, you never can tell. One year to the next, they'll just jump straight up.
Sullivan's going to be on another level this year. They could make a run for state.
Yeah, they're really good. They have a new coach. This is a first-year coach. Gunnels, who used to be the baseball coach at Carbon Hill, is now he went to Brilliant. He was at Fayette last year as assistant, and now he's at Sullivan. All right, what about Curry at Northside?
Yeah, Northside's kind of down in terms of their record. They're 1-2. They'll be 2-2. I think that they're going to run all over Curry. Unfortunately.
Even though they lost last week to Oak Grove, which was surprising.
Yeah, that was a very shocking loss.
It's a big win for Oak Grove.
Yeah, Oak Grove plays a lot of our area teams this year, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Hadn't yet, but they also play Carbon Hill, I think.
Yep, that's the non-region game.
Speaking of Carbon Hill, they go to Fayette. Any chance there?
Well, Fayette's having a down year, but still going to be too good for Carbon Hill. Road environment. Fayette's a very tough place to win a game, and I think that the Tigers are going to beat Carbon Hill.
I don't know if I've ever seen a local team win at Fayette or Winfield.
That's true. Well,
those are both tough places.
That's true. I think Cordova won it. Well, Cordova probably won at Fayette back when they were regional.
I remember I went to there and Fayette beat them.
That's right.
I think it was 42-12.
Yeah, I think
they didn't play
their
starters much.
Yeah,
and then Cordova made a run after that. All right. Well, let's talk about some surprises this year. I know we did a couple weeks ago our predictions, and they've all been thrown out the window. You said Alabama would go undefeated. I said Dora would go undefeated. I mean, they were all wrong, basically. Now, we never would have thought. What about Cordova?
Ooh, that's
what's going on over there?
Well, they're really missing Cody Hedrick. Cody Hedrick, their quarterback, who's been there for 3 or 4 years. It's a starter.
4 years. Yeah.
He's a 4-year starter. He started from 9th grade to 12th grade, and then trying to find a replacement for him is just too much to tackle, it looks like, for the Blue Devils.
I think they tinkered with starting this guy, starting that guy, but I think now some others' the son is probably the answer going forward. Maybe they can start putting this thing together. That was a big change last week, putting him at quarterback. I think it worked, even though they lost the game. And, of course, we never saw Meek losing to Hackleburg, which is still shocking.
Yeah,
to score 8 points at home.
Yeah, it surprises me. And I reckon this week if Hackleburg beats Addison, that might, give us more picture as to why Meek lost that game. Mm-hmm. But if Hackleburg struggles down the road, then it's just going to look like a kind of a white elephant.
A fluke.
Yeah.
Yes. And what about corner? Did we see them doing this? Up to the start?
Yeah, they kind of had an easy schedule to start with. Hamilton, who is has one win in their last 3 seasons or so, and obviously last week St. Clair County, who's normally going to go 1-9 or 0-10.
So they've looked really, really good against teams they should have beat.
So we don't know much about.
We're going to find out a lot when they play Cordova this week. That's going to be interesting. Anybody else kind of surprising off to the start they're off to this year?
Well, I mean, of course we have. The lack of defense in the area has kind of been rough. You see teams scoring into the 60s, like Curry allowed Dora to put up 66 or 61, Carbon Hill allowed 62 to Winston County, and Sumner Christian allowed 56 to Pickens County this past week.
We're on pace to set some school records here, and not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
No.
Unless you're, Dora, Winston County.
Yeah. Dora can score. I mean, against teams like this, they're going to score whatever they score.
Yeah.
You can't tell them not to score when we put the backups in. All right, so our top 5 this week, a little bit different, I would say. But who do you have at 5th?
My number 5 is going to be Winston County. They've got, of course, that big win against Addison to open the season. A loss at East Lawrence was really surprising. And then, of course, taking care of business against Carbon Hill last week. So I have Winston County at 5th because, they've got all the pieces together to make a run. Now, will they actually do that? I don't know.
They really do. Now, the schedule is really tough.
Now, Chris Clemens, he's injured now, so definitely that could be a, threat to Winston County's dominance.
I have Meek, which is probably the lowest I've ever had them, 5th place.
Yeah, 5th.
They just of course, they blew out Waterloo. That's no problem. I just want to see them really get going again.
Yeah, Dab. We need to see them win big in a game that they're not supposed to win big in, like Lynn did with Marion County.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they can do that with Colbert Heights. I expect it kind of to be close. If they could win by 3 touchdowns, that really put them in the right direction. What about number 4?
Number 4, I got Meek. So we're talking about the same team. So, like you said, Meek just hasn't taken care of business against the top teams that they've played. This week they get a 3A team, not a great 3A team, but a 3A team nonetheless.
Yeah, it's different when you go up 2 levels. I have Lynn, which they lost, but I mean there's no moral victories for Lynn.
Right.
But I would call it was just a good game.
It was.
They scored late. They were within a touchdown and gave up a late touchdown, lost by 10. But I don't see them losing again probably.
No, they're
Pickens
not.
County's going to be tough. Pickens County's going to be
Pickens
really,
County
really
could
tough.
win that game, especially revenge for last
it's at
year.
Pickens.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
All right, my number 3 is where we're at now. Is Dora.
Whoa.
Because
low.
they're a little low, but that's because there are teams ahead of them. Dora's.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah, shocker. Dora's looked good this season. They beat Aniana, which surprised me a little bit. So I've got them at 3rd, and I don't see them going down any from that spot for the rest of the season.
After what Oak Grove did in Northside, they're really kind of that corner game's going to be huge, especially if they beat Cordova this week.
Right.
I have Oakman at 3, which is the highest I've had them in years, probably.
Yeah.
I think Sulligent's good. That's their loss,
right?
And it was at home by I think 11 points. And they fell down huge. It was 21-0 right off the bat to start the season.
Right, and that's and
they came back.
You don't want to start a season off like that. Give up 3 touchdowns.
And I didn't know. I was like, what is happening with Oatman losing to Sullivan again? But they're actually really good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is going to be Corner, last undefeated team.
Familiar.
I've got to have them there just because they, even though they haven't really played anybody, they deserve some reward for being, having the best record.
I also have Corner at 2.
Okay.
I mean, they had Brendan Connor, the quarterback, the running back, Unruh, I think is his name, and Jace Boyd all showed out last week, and they just obliterated Hamilton. So, yeah, their tougher games are coming up, especially this week. This will show me a lot. What about number 1?
Yeah, I think we disagree here about our number 1s. My number 1 is Lynn.
I had them 4th.
Yeah, they lost last week. But that's to Alabama Christian. Alabama Christian is a really good football team.
Let's playoff 3A.
Yeah, and
it's not a 3A around here. It's like a real good 3A.
Right. They have the. I mean, you hate to say the term best loss, but they have the best loss of anybody that has a loss on their schedule.
Yes, and out of all those blowouts, I guess that was the closest game.
Right.
10 points. Yeah, that was only one. That one in Oakman, which was 9 points.
9, yeah.
That was it. And I have Dora number 1. Because I guess the Aniana win still.
Yes.
I'm still with that. And Curry, of course, I didn't get a lot of that out of that. Neither team really did.
No, but it's a raging game, so it's gonna.
They had to play it.
That's true. They had no choice.
Yeah, they had to play, and they took care of business very quickly. All right, so now we'll jump over to college a little bit. You went to a particular game and were there all day Saturday.
Yeah, getting sunburnt and screaming at the top of my lungs.
Still a little burnt.
Still a little.
Did you get your voice back already?
Maybe
all the way back?
Maybe a little bit. It's still a tad bit hoarse, but.
But Alabama, of course, lost to Texas. I think it was a 10-point?
Yeah, 34-24.
Which is Alabama's worst loss.
Worst home loss in 20 years.
What was the last one?
The last one was, I think it was 20-3 back in 2003. I don't remember who it was.
So this
again.
is pre-Saban.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Way pre-Saban.
And that shows how much success he's had. That game is the worst loss he suffered at home.
And it really was pretty close. I mean, did they lead in the 4th? They led, right?
Alabama was up 16-13 when the 4th quarter started, and then it just all fell apart.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a 10-point loss, but it was
scored 21-8 in the 4th quarter.
That's unbelievable.
It's like the Georgia game last year where they got outscored 20-0 or so. I don't remember. It was just
bad 4th quarter.
Yeah, when Alabama's kind of lack of depth, the 4th quarter is where it falls apart.
Is that what you would call the biggest problem this year?
Lack of experience. They have depth, of course. Mm-hmm. Alabama's got some of the best depth out there. Thing is, There's just not enough experience out there to translate that depth into victories against a top team like Texas. And I think we can say Texas is back.
God, how many years have we said that in a row? But it actually feels like it this year.
Yeah, it's since 2011 was the first time everybody started saying, because 2009 they go to the championship game, get blown out by Alabama with a backup quarterback, and then 2010 they kind of were started on that decline that's just now starting to go up. So for the first time in about a dozen years, Texas is back.
Ewers looked really good.
We could win the Heisman legitimately.
Yeah, is this maybe a little Joe Burrow-esque? Because he's another Ohio State transfer.
That's true. It reminds me a lot of Joe Burrow, of course. Being able to beat Alabama. Brian, didn't he?
It was just really calm. It looked like a lot like the old Alabama quarterbacks. All right, so did you happen to catch any of the Auburn game?
I listened to it on the radio on the way home on the Auburn Sports Network. It was an ugly win.
It was. I guess it's better than having an ugly loss.
I agree.
But that's it.
Yeah,
that's
I would
positive,
take a 14-10 win over California over a 34-24 loss to Texas any day.
Yeah, I mean, watching the game, they followed each other on ESPN. So I'm watching the Alabama game, then I'm watching the Auburn game.
Right.
I'm like, what? I mean, it was such a great, talent.
Right.
And that Texas-Alabama game, then you go to the Auburn game. And
what was it, 5 turnovers in the first half
JV
or something?
Football. It was awful. Yeah, I mean, they really looked bad. I'll chalk it up to, I don't know, traveling out.
Long road trip. Got to find an excuse out there.
That's the best one. They had to travel. I think they had to walk half the way, and they were wore out. So they couldn't drive the ball.
Good reason.
The coaching was bad on offense.
You've turned on Hugh Freeze already.
No, I mean, I wanted him to. He apparently is this going to be like Malzahn? We always say, hey, he needs to be calling the plays, and who's calling this play? Is he calling it, or is the OC calling it? But I could have called that from my couch. That's how bad it was. Just running up the middle and punt. All right, so what do you think about Alabama now? You said they were going undefeated. What are your thoughts?
One loss now. I think Texas. Well, I mean, before the season, I said Alabama's probably going to lose a game. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost at Texas A&M or, God forbid, lost the Iron Bowl. Now I think Alabama. This could be like 2008 Florida, where Florida back in 2008 lost to Ole Miss second or third week of the season. Tim Tebow goes out and he promises that no team will fight harder than Florida for the rest of the season, and they just demolish everything in their way to a national championship. The only problem for Alabama is there's no Tim Tebow on that roster.
Milroe isn't going to make that bold prediction.
He's not. He took the blame for the loss. He said himself that it's his responsibility, which is what you would want a quarterback to say. In reality, the loss goes on the defense.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a lot of different problems.
Yeah, Milroe played good enough to make it close and put Alabama in the position. The defense completely squandered it away.
Yeah. And Auburn, the defense was the whole team. That was it. Sante had an incredible game. If he's not Defensive Player of the Week, there's something wrong. But the rest of it was hard to watch. It really was. After that entertaining Alabama game. So what about your prediction for Auburn now?
6-6.
Yeah. If they play like this, they won't make a bowl game. But I think they'll get better.
I don't know.
They've got to get better.
I think they could beat Vanderbilt in that SEC. They could beat Vanderbilt or Mississippi State.
They're going to have to beat 2 of them. All right, get Samford, then that junk game at the end of the year. That's 4.
Then Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Mississippi State and Vanderbilt.
That would be probably the most likely, or Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas, if something happens to KJ Jefferson.
Or they lose to Vanderbilt.
Oh, that would be bad if Auburn lost to Vanderbilt. Bad for Auburn.
The good thing is, like you said, they won instead of,
right.
Even though the team missed 3 field goals, Auburn had 4 turnovers. I mean, it was just a mess. Yeah. All right, so you have some picks for us this week?
I do. I've got a few games here.
Because it's kind of like the high school slate. There's not a whole lot of big games this week.
No ranked on ranked games. I mean,
it's pretty sad.
As we were talking about before we started on the air, that's when all of your upsets occur.
Yeah, that's
when it's a terrible schedule. That's when we get all the entertainment. All right, first game, reigning national champions, Georgia, and I hate saying that. I absolutely hate saying that.
Back to back.
Oh,
I know.
They host South Carolina. Does South Carolina have a chance?
Had I not seen the North Carolina game, I would say yes. Unfortunately, I did see that game, and they looked awful. But, If it was at South Carolina, maybe a little bit of a chance. I see Georgia running away with this.
Fortunately for South Carolina, Mike Bobo is Georgia's offensive coordinator, so
That does help.
they can make it
Yes.
close in the first half before the rest of Georgia catches up and it gets ugly. So I'm assuming you have Georgia.
Yes, handily.
What do you think final score is?
38-10.
Okay, I was going to say 45-13 or something.
Yeah, it won't be close.
About 42 of them will be in the second half, though, those points for Georgia. I think it'll be a rough first half to watch.
They get off to slow starts.
They do.
Georgia does this year so far.
All right, second game, an old rivalry renewed, K-State, Missouri. It's in Como. Do you think Missouri has a chance here?
I do. And they can show what they've got because they're 2-0. They hadn't really played anybody yet.
They hadn't really played good against the nobodies
No,
either.
Middle Tennessee had them on the ropes last week. So I think Kansas State, pretty handily too.
I agree. Kansas State, they're the reigning Big 12 champions, believe
That's
it.
right.
It seems so
You don't
weird
even
because
think about that.
Texas is so good. You think about TCU last year, but nope, Kansas State, they won the conference
Very
championship.
surprising. And TCU still made the championship game, unfortunately.
And got beat. Alabama
That's bad.
should have been in that title game.
Auburn
last
should have
year.
been in it in front of
Auburn
TCU.
would have done better.
Yes.
Auburn probably would
With
not have
Cornell
lost by
Williams,
58.
yes, that would have.
Yeah, Cadillac would have driven a little bit there. So for the record, I've got Kansas State as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next game, very weird. Vanderbilt. They're going to Las Vegas
would
to
you
take
do
on
that?
UNLV. That's something that Alabama would do this week.
They're doing that.
Why do you, if you're an SEC team,
I don't-
why do you have to take road trips?
Like Ole
to a
Miss
Mountain West-
Ole Miss to Tulane?
Well, that's slightly different because Tulane's at least a top tier program in,
ranked,
in the group
yeah.
of 5. But
I don't.
UNLV.
Going to Las Vegas, I don't know what's stranger, that or Alabama. I see Alabama doing that for maybe recruiting. I don't know. There's a bunch of great players South Florida.
It's a good idea. Knowing how Alabama has somewhat struggled on the road in the past couple of years. I mean, ever since the pandemic, fans back in the stands, Alabama just hasn't been the same on the road. So do that against USF this year. We'll get back to that to open up your road schedule. Good idea. For Vanderbilt, I don't know why you do it
doesn't make
because
any
there may be
sense.
about 30 people
Doesn't make
at
any
Allegiant
sense.
Stadium.
There will be no one there.
There'll be-
There's other things to do in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Probably.
But yeah, I'm actually picking Vanderbilt though. I think they'll
So
win
am
that
I.
game.
Do you think UNLV will make it respectable?
It'll probably be pretty close.
Okay.
Vanderbilt's not great.
I agree with you there. All right, next game. An interesting one. Very interesting, as a matter of fact. LSU is going into the land of the cowbells to take on Mississippi State. Do you see Mississippi State pulling the upset?
I would love that. But they've already been upset once. Maybe if they were undefeated, maybe. But, boy, they got to play better than they did the opening week. But I am taking LSU.
Yeah, like you said, I would love it too, and I think it's going to happen. I got Mississippi State winning that.
That's a big upset.
LSU, they look terrible week 1 against Florida State. Then they come out and they beat Grambling 72-10.
I know. That was close for a half, I think.
It was. And so I think LSU, it's like a roller coaster. You go straight down, then straight back up. You're probably going straight back down again.
Right. And, Mississippi State's a weird place to play.
Last week, Arizona comes to Starkville and, crazy ending in overtime. Mississippi State won. I think Mississippi State, they're going to be undefeated.
Yeah.
At least 3 games through.
Oh, you mean for the season?
No,
or after this
they're
week?
just going to be 3 games through.
3 games through, yes.
Yeah, 3 games through the season, they'll be undefeated.
You realize that was the old Florida quarterback that played, that had signed and went to Arizona, and he came up, a yard? Not even a yard.
He was
like a foot short.
He should.
He was inches
I thought he
short.
had that first down,
That
too.
was so close.
Oh.
And probably went double overtime.
That's
Made
true.
that. But I am going with LSU.
Okay, I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. All right, we're almost through here. BYU making the return trip to Arkansas after Arkansas went out to Utah last year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see BYU able to pull an upset on the road?
Oh, that's going to be really close.
And now it's a Power
I don't
5
think
matchup.
much of Arkansas. But, yeah, what's funny? Last year they played. When Auburn has a team they play home and away, it's like 8 years in between, And they got back-to-back years. I like that.
Yeah, the home and home series, they're coming back again.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah. I don't like the neutral site. One game off.
One game neutral side. Go play in. What was it? Atlanta is where Alabama wound up.
Or Dallas.
Dallas. That's true.
Yeah. See, we needed Alabama, Texas, home and away. I mean, that's what you needed. That's football.
And it's ridiculous because Texas has a great home field advantage, and Alabama's able to go on the road and win there. Well, Alabama's got a great home field advantage. Texas comes to town.
I'm still surprised with that.
Crazy things happen in college football. All
But
right.
I'm going Arkansas.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arkansas is just going to be too much for BYU.
I think it's going to be close.
Okay.
That's a long trip, too.
Yeah. I think KJ Jefferson's going to have a good game, though, for Arkansas. And BYU's just not going to be able to keep up. And
exactly.
It's going to start that long string of games as BYU's in their debut season with the Big 12. And I just think BYU is –
these weird
they're
matchups.
going down. Yeah. BYU going to Iowa State and Kansas State.
Really, we're going to get a lot of those in the coming years.
Yeah,
weird matchups.
Is it just me, or is Rutgers USC just a perfect trip? Let's go
It's
from
gonna be a big game.
New Jersey to California to play football.
Back and forth. They're going to be all that. Wake Forest against UCLA. I mean, it's going to be really, really strange.
Basketball season is going to be worse because you've got to go out there. You'll be in Rutgers one week, USC the next. Then let's go back to Maryland.
To SMU.
Then SMU. So we're going to be in for some interesting times in college sports ahead. But for now, everything is slightly normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're down. We're down to just the Alabama and Auburn. First off, Auburn has kind of a cupcake with Samford, even though Samford is they're on the rise in the Southern Conference in the FCS. Does Samford make it entertaining?
Auburn plays like they did last week. Yes, but you remember that year Jacksonville State almost beat them?
Yes.
These games really scare me. I understand why Alabama doesn't play a state school. They get nothing out of it.
Right.
And what if it's close? They're going to be made fun of and stuff. I mean, Auburn was almost made fun of. At Jacksonville, they should have lost that game. They really should have. But
how many years ago was that? Was that just
Jeremy Johnson, I think, so probably 8 years ago, something like that.
gracious.
But I think they'll handle Samford. Samford's not. I mean, it's just death will get them eventually.
Yeah. I think it's going to be close. Probably not going to be like the last time Samford played an SEC team back in 2021, where it was like 70-56 against Florida.
That's right. Yeah, I think it'll be maybe 45-10.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I think it's going to be more like 35-13 or something. I don't think Auburn's offense is going to be able to, get anything going. Last game, USF Alabama.
Like we said, a weird trip to Orlando. Is it Tampa or Orlando?
It's Tampa, which is
Very
not even
strange
South
trip.
Florida.
Yeah, it's kind of in the center.
It's
right?
Central Florida is more.
Further south.
They're further. Is
Wow,
Orlando
it's
further?
incredible.
I don't know. I didn't do so well in Florida's geography, but
It's a big state.
It
right?
is. It's
Very
weird,
long
just
state.
really long. But all right, trivia for you. Can you tell me the last time Alabama took a road trip to a non-Power 5 team?
Wow. Was it Saban
It
era?
was not Saban era.
Okay, so was it Shula era?
It was not Shula.
So this has been a while. Who was it?
Gene Stallings era, if that gives you a hint.
Where did they go to Louisville?
They went to Tulane.
Oh, wow.
1992. Won
So kinda
37-0.
Like Ole Miss?
Yes.
That's strange. This is strange, going South Florida.
Yeah, Tulane used to be an SEC school back in the 60s, I think. Back when Georgia Tech was in there
I
winning
wish Georgia Tech was back.
winning national championships and that sort of thing. Of course, I assume you're picking Alabama.
Yeah. Oh, they're in for it. South Florida's in for it now. Alabama's mad. You don't want that.
And this is, I think it's the first time in about 3 or 4 years that Mississippi State is not on the back end of an Alabama loss.
Wow.
Because
Strange.
that seems like it's always
Yeah, it does
Alabama's
seem
revenge
like-
game.
And that's actually a couple weeks away. Ole Miss is next. So they got to get ready for Ole Miss with this game right here.
And I think it's going to be a tune-up game. I see Alabama winning something like 45-10. What do you think the final score will be?
54-6 or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're mad.
And that's all I've got for us. A few SEC games and a pretty bad week of college football.
And high school football, as we talked about.
Just a rough week.
But maybe that's going to make some good games.
I hope
and
so.
hopefully some good wins for our local teams here. All right, well, that'll wrap up our show. Thank you, Zach, for being here. Thank you, Bevill State, for sponsoring. And we'll see you next week.
Bevill State
is your community college.
for convenient and affordable academic transfer options.
Rewarding health science programs. High wage, high demand career tech training.
Your story starts at Bevill State.